Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We got a new truck on the trailer, but it's not what you think. Let me get this thing inside and I'll explain. Hey guys, so here's this truck. It's a 1974 F-250 Ranger Camper Special. Pretty cool truck, real nice shape. Now this is a dent side. I know you're not really used to seeing dent sides on this channel. A sort from this thing here is a dent side, but I'm just really not into them. I mean, they're cool, I like them, don't get me wrong. I'm just into bump sides more. And the reason these are called dent sides is, see how this has this concaved feature here on the side of the truck. They call these dent sides because they're dent, and the bump sides, they stick out, so they call them a bump. But anyway, this is actually a customer's truck. You know, you saw this thing on the trailer and probably thought I bought another truck, but I didn't. This is a customer's truck. It's been sitting for a while. She wants to get it running, get the brakes working, and she thought there were some oil leaks on it, and I've already found some of the problems. It's a real nice truck, real slick. You know, under here is real good. It's been repainted. It used to be white and blue, she said, but she liked the monocolor better, so she repainted it in this nice blue. It looks really nice. Under the hood's real nice. It's got a 460 in here, which is cool. Kind of rare for these trucks to have a 460 in them. It's got factory air conditioning, power brakes, power steering, highly optioned truck. Of course, it's a Ranger, so it's kind of higher trim level. It's had a Edelbrock Carter style carburetor put on it, and she said it was recently rebuilt, and she hasn't been able to get it run right, or it hasn't been running right. And we just winced it on the trailer. We didn't even try to start it. The battery was dead, and I got it here. I tried to start it, drive it off the trailer, and you might notice there's some pools right there of liquid. That's fuel. The float was stuck on the carburetor, and fuel was coming out of these vent holes right here, and I believe that is the main cause of problems for this truck. The float was stuck. It has old gas in it, bad gas, probably got ethanol in it, and it probably gummed up this carburetor and stuck the float in there, and the float was stuck open and allowed fuel to just fill up the bowls, and then it eventually comes out the float, or the vent right here, and flooded the engine and made it run real bad. When I got it started, the first thing I noticed was it was blowing a bunch of black. Right there you can see some of it, but it was just all over my trailer, just blowing black, and stuff leaking out everywhere under the truck, which is what she probably thought was the oil leaks, but really it was fuel and soot, fuel saturated soot, and leaking out, making it look black like oil. But what I did here was I got the bowls filled up and then shut the truck off, and then tapped right here, and that got the float unstuck enough for it to run. The brake issues, the reservoir was out of fluid, so I topped it off with fluid, and now it probably has air in the lines. They're real spongy, so I'm going to bleed the brakes, make sure there's no leaks, because since that was out of fluid, I'm going to make sure there's no leaks, because you can have a leak in the system, and the more you use your brakes, the more the fluid you lose, and then you end up with no fluid, and then your brakes don't work. So I got to fill that up, drain the or bleed the brakes, and then make sure there's no leaks anywhere in the system. Another thing she had was oil leaks, and I think mainly that was that fuel coming out of the exhaust. There might be a few under there. It looked like the oil pan might have been leaking when I crawled under it. The transmission pan for sure is leaking. But I think we're going to do a whole service on this thing. We might service transmission, check the rear end, and bleed the brakes and stuff like that, and take care of this truck and get it back on the road for her. Another thing, she said it was driving really bad, wouldn't go down the road straight, and we might check the alignment and check the steering linkages and stuff. Real nice interior. These dent sides are different than the bump sides on the interior. Way different on the interior. Exterior is pretty similar. Not, not exactly, but I mean, they're pretty similar. Tailgates look similar, but they're different. But anyway, we will, I'm going to get this thing in the shop, change the oil, and get it to where I can run it a little bit more, make sure there's nothing else wrong with it, and then start working on it. So we'll see what we get done on it. Well, I got this truck over here and got the oil drained out of it, but we're going to get some oil on this thing. I like to use driven racing oil, hot rod oil, they call it, HR5 1040. It's really good for these engines. It has all the additives that these old flat tappet engines need, you know, the zinc, ZDP or whatever they call it. And it has some additives for setting a long time and helps the oil stay to the engine and lubricate the engine on startups after setting a long time. So it's good stuff for these old trucks like this, and that's why I run in all my stuff, you know, the Ultimate Highboy over there and my 72 Camper Special and all that. It's a little expensive, but in the long run I think it works out. Hopefully there's no damage to this engine. I think that oil has been in there for a long time, so we'll see. The oil filter looked a little dated. Get a new oil filter in this thing, get new oil in there, and then we'll see how it likes it. Hey guys, well, I got this 74 Camper Special in the shop here. Did some diagnostic work on it, and as you saw last time we had a stuck float in the carburetor. Well, I got that unstuck, just took a little tappy on the float, and it got that fixed, so then I could start it and run it. I did drive it some. The radiator is leaking, so I'm gonna have to either find someone that can fix this radiator for me or get a new one. And the master cylinder is leaking, and some other few little things. The rear main is leaking as well. Probably going to recommend engine out, since the rear main's leaking, and a few other things. Probably a new timing set for this 73 or 74 engine. Help wake that 460 up a little bit, and we can seal the engine back up and recondition those heads and check everything else out for the customer. She was real concerned about oil leaks, didn't want any oil leaks to be concerned about, and things of that nature. So I think first off I'm going to check the compression, see what we got there, and see how bad of a problem we're dealing with, and then move on from there. Hey guys, well, I got a little farther along figuring out what's wrong with this engine here. I did compression test on these cylinders over here, and 5 and 6 were both about 30 psi, so they were way too low. I originally thought maybe blown head gaskets, because they're right next to each other and they had the same reading, but I wanted to pull the valve covers to make sure we didn't have a stuck valve or something like that. And we had some bent push rods, and those were off the rocker arms, and I'm suspecting the bad gas in this thing stuck the valves, and varnish got on the valve stems and stuck valves and bent some push rods. So I've already spoke with the owner of this truck. We're going to end up, it has a rear main seal leaking as well, so I'm going to end up pulling the engine. Going to have the heads reconditioned for sure, and try to reseal the engine. And depending on how the rest of it looks, we might just freshen up the whole thing, but probably put a new timing set on it, and for sure fix that rear main leak. But we'll get it out of the truck and assess everything further, so be a lot easier to see what all it needs when it's out of the truck. So we'll get that done. Hey guys, working on this 74 here, pulling the everything I need to pull the engine, and I got the radiator, air compressor, all the accessory drive and everything off of the front, except the power steering pump. I still have to pull the power steering pump, but I have the radiator pulled over here, and as you can see, it looks like it's been leaking for a while. It was leaking a lot when I drove it, spraying antifreeze out. It was leaking right here and down there where the water comes in and out, in the core here, and looks like it was leaking up here some as well. So it's pretty common for these old radiators that sit, and usually the coolant hasn't been changed. See, the color of the coolant's not bright green anymore. It just eats away at these radiators. But customers said they think they can come up with a new one or another one. The new ones are awful expensive, so they're looking for a new one right now, and or a replacement, I guess, not a new one. We'll see if they find anything before we have to go back together with it. But so far it's going pretty good. Just got to work my way back and unhook everything that is going to have to be unhooked to pull the engine, and get the engine out here, and then we'll hopefully pull the heads and see what the rest of it looks like. Well guys, I got the 460 a little closer to coming out. Motor mounts are out, torque converter nuts are out, a few of the bell housing bolts are out. I don't have them all out. I got to put a jack under the transmission and then start picking the motor up. Linkages are undone, all the hoses are undone, wires are undone, and pretty close to having it out. This truck, there is a lot of accessories, or a lot more extra stuff on it than that 69 F350 I did about a month or so ago, back in January. It was a non-power steering truck. It had a vacuum booster, but didn't have power steering, didn't have AC, all that extra stuff. And there's a lot more room in the bump sides anyway. But just about ready to pull this thing out of here, and got the cherry picker over here. Once I get it out, I'm going to pull the heads and see what the cylinders are like. When I was taking the torque converter bolts out, noticed that the engine might be a little limber, so we might be ending up rebuilding the whole thing, but we'll know for sure when we get the motor out. Well, I got everything ready for this engine to come out. Got the hoist hooked up, motor mount bolts are out. I still have 2 transmission bolts to come out. And this truck has a C6 automatic transmission in it, so it's a little bit different than pulling a manual transmission. It only has to come back a little bit to clear the dowels on the transmission and the torque converter studs on the torque converter come through the flex plate. So it only has to come back about 1 inch, and then it will be free. So it's not like a manual transmission where you have the input shaft to deal with out of the transmission coming through the clutch and everything. So going to get the jack under the transmission to hold up the transmission, get this jacked up and do that, and then see if we can get them apart. Well guys, got the engine out and on the engine stand here, as you just saw. Next thing I got to do is get the intake manifold off and get these heads off of here and be able to look in the engine and see what kind of condition the engine is in before I strip anything else off. So if I know if we're do a full rebuild, just going to strip everything down and clean everything. If we're just going to recondition the heads, I'll leave a lot of this stuff on here so I can clean it and keep a lot of the dirt and grime out of the engine. So we'll get after that. Well, I didn't get very far. Popped the passenger side valve cover off and found some more problems. Yeah, that guy's bent. And that guy's bent. So these two are probably stuck, and it's a little dirtier on this side. That's kind of interesting. So this side's a little dirtier. We might end up refreshing this engine after all. I thought it was going to be a little bit better shape under here, but anyway, I want this thing to be nice and running good for the customer, so I think I'm going to recommend a full rebuild at this point. Yeah, I got the intake manifold off of this engine here, and if you look in here, I don't know if you can see this, the amount of varnish that's on this. It's like an 1/8 inch of varnish from running bad gas. So that's why the valve stuck. Had 4 intake valves stuck, and just like my machinist said, that if we would have got these valves unstuck and ran some fresh gas through it, it probably would have ate up that varnish and it would have got on some more valves and probably stuck some more down the road. So good thing we are taking the heads off and going to recondition the heads. By the look of that cam, we're probably going to be reconditioning the whole engine. So it'll be a good running truck when it's done. Probably threw a little hotter cam in it, maybe like an RV cam, something like that. Give it a little bit more torque, and get that old 74, 73 cam out of there, and that timing set. Put a early timing set in it so it's not retarded. And this will be a fun truck with a good running 460 in it. It ought to be awful good running truck. So next thing I'm going to do is call the customer and kind of go over the options with them and make sure what I'm thinking is what they're thinking. And if they're on board, we'll tear this whole engine down, and I'll take it all over to the machine shop. Well, I have that 460 here, got the heads off, and glad I went ahead and pulled the engine, because it looks like that excess fuel that was getting dumped in the engine washing the cylinder walls. See how it's all matte? I think it's seen better days. There's not a lot of ledge here, which would indicate tapered bore, or a lot of wear. The ring's wearing up here, but we'd have to spec it out to see if we can just hone it out and re-ring it, or if we're gonna have to bore it. That'll require a bore gauge and everything, bore mic and mic everything, see what it all comes up as. And I'm guessing the bearings in the bottom end are not happy from that gas and oil mixture that was in it whenever I got it. And right here, I don't know what happened here. It looks like the block in the lifter valley cracked. Maybe something got stuck under that cam, and when the lobe came around, it busted it up. I'm not quite sure. Have to see if it got into the lifter bore or something like that. If it did, that's going to junk the block. But I'm going to continue the tear down on it and see what else it needs. Hey guys, well I think that just about does it for this episode on this 74 camper special. We got the engine out, found some issues with it, and I'm going to talk with the customer and see what she wants to do, see how deep she wants to go into the engine, and I think we'll end it here. And next time you see us working on this truck, hopefully we're putting a fresh rebuilt engine back in this thing. It'll be a sweet truck when it's done. You'll see it here, so like and subscribe, and see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.